And yeah, we're live under really shitty circumstances.
Yeah.
So thank you all for joining early. We realize it's a weird time to be streaming. It's 10 p.m. Georgia's time. It's 6 a.m. here in the UK, 7 a.m. Europe. But let's start off the reason why we're streaming. We're here to pay respects. That's my smartphone makes noise because the stream has started. We're here to pay respects to our good friend Gordon Mah Ung, executive editor over at PC World, who unfortunately in the medium, it was a few days ago, passed away after a prolonged, protracted battle with terminal cancer. We all knew Gordon was ill. Not a lot was ever made known public. Went through the pandemic perfectly fine, but unfortunately was hit with this news, took a lot of time away from camera, but as and when he could, as and when he had the energy, he still made it in front of. And I streamed with him at least once, if not twice, or we recorded a video after that. But yeah, we expected Gordon to pull through, right? Because this industry is full of positive stories. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened, and I know it's a big toll, not only on his family. He is sustained through his family, his wife and 2 kids. But I know the team over at PC World, Adam, Brad, Elena, Will, Willis, Keith, I'm gonna miss him, and I think we all are. Yeah, it fucking sucks. Fuck cancer.
Yeah.
I'll let me grab this link. So there is a GoFundMe for his family, because, as you know, American medical bills are the absolute worst. You'll find it in the description, but I'm also going to put it into the chat. I'll be donating to it shortly after this stream. Big plus to Kelt Reeves over at Falcon Northwest. I saw he just dropped 25k into the GoFundMe. And yeah, we as seems to be more regular on this, we seem to jump on stream because of immediate news, good and bad.
Mostly bad, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's Adam's video over at PC World, and the Full Nerd podcast dropped 5.5 hours ago. I think, yeah. George, you were telling me
about 5.5 hours ago.
And it's just a short remembrance piece. Steve from Gamers Nexus, I noticed the minute he heard the news, he immediately got in front of the camera, recorded a video, edited it himself, and posted it within the hour. Because I know Gordon and Steve have been close for quite some time. Gordon's been a bit of a mentor to Steve. And a bit of a mentor to all of us, in some way or fashion. And we all have our memories of Gordon. CES is coming up just after Christmas. And I wonder if we can maybe we'll have like a vigil or remembrance drinks with the PC World team or such one day that week, where we can just sit back and kick off our memories of Gordon outside of a live stream like this. So yeah, it's I would be drinking for Gordon, but like I said, it's 6 a.m. my time. I'm kind of glad I had a headache yesterday and had to go for a nap.
Have some Baileys in here.
Nice. That is definitely a Christmas drink. Good and bad. It's So I want to get your take on this, George, because my relationship with Gordon, I think, was quite different to a lot of people's, in the industry versus out the industry. And a lot of our audience are outside, the tech press industry. They might be in the tech industry, but they're not necessarily in the tech press industry. But you've met Gordon a few times at events.
Yeah.
Before he was diagnosed. But you've been watching his stuff for ages as well, I can imagine.
I remember it was his and your pieces about the 4690K that convinced me to go with that over the 4790K. All the way back in the Haswell era, back when I was 13, 14.
Jeez. Make me feel old, man. But
and it was yeah. So even back then, back in the transition between Maximum PC and PC World, I was reading Gordon's stuff. And
were you a big magazine reader?
Even though I'm younger, I back in those days, I would, just because especially when we were back in Yorba Linda, because we lived in an apartment, and the apartment's internet would go out all the time, and I'd read books, magazines, the newspaper, which in 2000, when would that have been? 2010-ish, 2011 was very much out of fashion, but yeah.
Video killed the radio star, and then video was meant to take over print, and that's the thing, right? Gordon had a very long career in traditional journalism. If you want to get some background into all of what Gordon's been up to, Steve does a really good job in going through his background. First, a crime reporter for several years, and then making the transition over to PC coverage, and ultimately, this pivot from print to online, and online to video. Adam, the senior video person on the team, who's kind of tried to fill in for Gordon while Gordon's been ill, he pinged me saying the full nerd meant so much to Gordon because it felt like it was the brand he created. He had always worked for other people, and it's still IDG, still owned PC World and the Full Nerd, but he created the Full Nerd out of nothing. I did debate whether to wear my Full Nerd shirt or this, which is the Phoenix from SC, Rise Again. Gordon is in all of us. Gordon's alive, or that famous quote from Flash Gordon. It's my relationship with Gordon is a bit different to most people because I didn't get into tech journalism through the traditional route, but also not. I kind of got in early at the enthusiast route, and so, but I wasn't necessarily a consumer of it at the time. Back when I was doing my overclocking stuff, the most I'd do is search up best GPU or whatever. This is like 2 years into my first ever PC build, so I never really read magazines back in the day. And then I read more as I wrote more for Anantech as well. And it was at that time I would be on calls, the general briefing calls that we all get, and Gordon would be there. And you could tell that he would. I like Gordon because it was always me and him asking questions, and almost zero others from everybody else. Everybody else decided to email theirs afterwards, and maybe they'll get a response. No, we asked ours there on the day, and he regardless of whatever it was, and he was always a fan of, bigger bar, better, more performance meat is everything. But he would still always bring it down to that sort of, well, what does the consumer want? Where's the value for the consumer? And, it was through, those calls, I'd hear him. And then eventually he transitioned into video and I'd see him, just as pretty much, everybody on this stream would. And then, we got a chance to be in the same room together. And what I liked about Gordon is that traditional media, especially written media, have a very protagonist-antagonist attitude towards each other. Everybody's trying to fight for the audience. Whereas in video, it's a lot more collaborative. With some exceptions. There are some people who still want it to be battle. Gordon was always of the we're all in this together, right? If you're going to be unfair and you're not going to wait your turn, then screw you. But he was always of the we're all in this together. Surely we want stuff better. If you're playing fanboy wars and you lost, he always said, well, dang, that's a shame I lost, but congrats on you for winning, rather than, don't tell me I'm wrong, which is, the fanboy attitude. And Gordon, being an old school journalist, meant he went and asked experts, asked people he knew with a lot more knowledge than he did about how stuff worked and why stuff the way it was. He had been in the industry long enough to know where the gaps in his knowledge are. And to be honest, I don't think I've even reached that level. I know when I don't know something, but sometimes I will full Dunning-Kruger a topic, despite only, having heard of it, 10 minutes. Unfortunately, there's a lot of media that do that these days. But he was always he always turned around and said, let's have a chat about why this is the way it is. And that's what they've emboldened, or he's emboldened into the Full Nerd team and the PC World team is, if there's somebody who can drill it down for the consumer, go ask them. Don't just make stuff up or don't try and figure it out yourself. And that's why PC World has always had this very fluid engagement with domain matter experts and other content creators. Every show, every trade show, they'd always have, several videos with Steve. I did some every now and then. And they'd always get in, the AMD execs or the Intel execs or, whoever, the NVIDIA execs, to get on and talk about the stuff. Asus always came around and spoke about networking, for example. And that's why a lot of brands liked them, because they would speak to experts, even if sometimes, doing interviews on camera isn't the best for traffic. But Gordon knew that, but he didn't care. Thankfully, he worked for a publication that, while they tracked KPIs, weren't as super strict as people that I've worked for and stuff. And I know that some other journalists have been, but Gordon, Steve said it well when he said that every time he'd have a phone call with Gordon, it would be a 2-hour conversation minimum, because Gordon would always have stories to tell from his time in the industry, whether it's .com bubble bursting days, or in the mid 2000s going through all sorts of Windows stuff, hardware vendors trying to pull the wool over people's eyes, whether it's benchmarking shenanigans or marketing shenanigans. And actually I'll bring up this video because I wanted to show this off.
Sure, I literally said I don't give a shit, because it doesn't, as a consumer, it doesn't matter, right? AI is like, and he's like, well, it's gonna matter. Yes, I know it will, but I don't really need to work. I only have so much limited brain capacity. Why am I gonna burn my brain capacity trying to understand something that is so far over the horizon? It's just, it's not, that is ultimately a problem, right? Because who cares? I mean, we should go, yeah, let's go, I don't even know anything. I don't pay attention. Because when I have to worry about it, I worry about it. Now I think I have to worry about it. That's why I'm arguing that it's for consumer.
Okay. And that was the great thing about Gordon, right? This was a video that we were doing about consumer AI and whether an AI is for the consumer. As he said, he doesn't know anything. He almost doesn't want to know anything until it's relevant, right? It's you want to have a knowledge a mile wide, and at certain points you need to make sure it's more than an inch deep. And Gordon would do his research. He'd talk to people, but as you saw there, he can monologue for ages because he has ideas and he has a way of doing things through video. I think he develops the skill to be concise and to keep bringing it back to keep the audience interested. The fact that he can, go up and down in tone, and one of his favorite things is always, let's play devil's advocate. What if it was actually the other way around? How would that affect the consumer? And it's a bit of it's frustrating. I was just in the Bay Area. So I never met up with Gordon post-diagnosis. I think he only ever went into the studio a handful of times anyway. I was one of the first journalists to ever go into the PC World studio. I'm not sure if I ever told you that. They had it there for ages, and it wasn't until I was in the area. It's like, oh yeah, no, come by. Let's go record stuff. And this time round, I recorded a few videos with Will Smith over there, who. We were doing videos about the next generation, Rapidus, manufacturing, new high manufacturer, all videos that I would be doing with Gordon, and have done with Gordon back in the day. Most of the videos we did ended up on the PC World channel, and before my channel got started, if you searched my name, the first thing that would come up on Google, because yes, I Google myself every now and again, wouldn't be my 10 years of Anantech. It would be this 6-minute video I did with PC World at CES that I wasn't particularly proud of. I think it was about RISC-V or something, right? Because that's what got the recognition. And Gordon understood that. He spent some time as editor-in-chief, but it wasn't really a role that gelled with him, I guess, the sort of administrative role. And I asked him about this once and said, "You've been in this industry how many years? And you're just an executive editor. Didn't you want to be more effect from a high level?" And his response was, "No, I like putting in the groundwork. I like stomping around trade shows. I like phoning people up. I like asking questions." So. Even though he's definitely more senior in years and experience than the editor-in-chief of PC World, he just didn't want to deal with the budget meetings and the hirings and the firings. He just wanted to go to events and stuff. So it's my engagement with Gordon was never due to his writing. It was purely by fact of us being in the field together. And I think the last video we did together, we highlighted that I think it was me, Will, and Gordon, and between us there was somewhere in the region of 60-70 years experience between the three of us. And we'd talk about, we've seen so much stuff in this industry, and I think out of the three, I'm actually the newest kid on the block, despite having been around 15 years or so. If
you're the newest one on the block, what does that make me?
I mean, out of those three, it's, and Adam and I, we would have in-depth conversations about Gordon, about his state of health. And obviously Adam does his best as a close colleague and associate of exactly how much he was, information he was willing to share and what was his to share, what was not. But it's, we'd speak about Gordon, about the sort of gravitas he also brings. People come to work with PC World because of Gordon. Again, people like, you know, Kelt from Falcon Northwest and everyone over the years, they wanted to be on the channel because, or they wanted to be on the Full Nerd because Gordon. And it's going to be a shame that the team there might lose some of that because of his passing. I mean, it plainly sucks that he's passed. It's a shitty situation for what it is. He what was he 57, which is way
58.
too young, in 58, yeah, way too young in this industry. You know, it's look after your health, people. That's kind of scary. That's less than 20 years away. I'd hate to think I'm halfway through my tech career at this point. It's Michael in the chat says, you know, Gordon was a natural communicator and so down to earth without insulting our intelligence. You know, I'm not sure how much was natural or how much was learned. I think by the time he came on to the Full Nerd, he'd been doing this 25 years. And if you haven't learned anything in 25 years, then you're not that good at your job. So it's not only learning the right way how to say things, but learning the right way how to showcase things. And I think Gordon knew how to do that well. That's why he didn't go on rambling monologues, and he easily could. I mean, I infrequently, but often enough, listen to a radio show host that has a 3 hours a day show, right? Okay, it's a phone-in show for some of that, but he does go on rambling monologues, and he can do that 15 hours a week. Gordon could have done that easily. And yeah, as Warren, our friend Warren, managed to spend some time with Gordon at one of the events we brought Warren out to. Warren came along with, so that was good. Sweet as Dew says, I loved his cynical wit and his button pushing. Yes. Again, it was always, why is this good for the consumer? Bunch of bullshit PR nonsense. But why is this good for the consumer? Bullshit PR nonsense. Yeah, it's wait.
He also knew how far he could push without going too far.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I ever saw him push people too far. Maybe that just means he never pushed them enough. But he was always open and honest and turned around and said, well, I think this. Right? No, I'm sure Adam's got some stories about exactly, you know, how if they ever annoyed people a bit too much, or some people got a bit sensitive. But again, he through the fact that he'd done it so long, and the fact that, you know, it sounds shitty to say elder statesman, but he could go up to the newest or the eldest PR agent, you know, in the land, and provide that questioning, and wanted to, if he felt it made sense for the audience to understand. If he didn't want to do the legwork to find out exactly the most experienced thing, again, he'd reach out to someone who he trusted, who he knew. You know, which I wish more people did. You know, and I try and keep a list of contacts, so I know a lot more than me about certain things, and I ping them whenever something is needed. It's changed a little bit recently with things like Discord. People have built up communities of experts, and I know, you know, you'll know this as well. Recently I've developed the mentality, and it kind of goes something a little bit against what Anand always taught me. Anand said, you know, you should be able to write for everyone. And my opinion has changed, and said, whatever I produce, whatever I create, it's going to be informative for 90% of the audience. 10% of people will know more than I do. right? If you're writing and you're making videos about tech, there will always be people who have spent 20 years in that exact field who know so much more than you. So you're not creating content for the 10%, you're creating content for the 90%. Gordon was very much sort of in that sort of 50-50 range, because he knew that 50% of the people who watched PC World, who read his stuff, knew a lot more than he did, but were still interested in the topic. It's one of those things, right? I don't need to know the ins and outs of process XYZ, but I want to know what Gordon's thoughts were, about the benchmarking, about the applicability of the marketing. And it's great that we now have a platform that promotes personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the purely written days, somebody passing, you'd have an obituary column the next month's issue. We're very much reactive now, and we can do it now. So it's I wonder if I can, just to reiterate, there is a GoFundMe. Let's see if I can bring it up without my system crashing.
I can post it.
No, I want to show it as well.
Currently at $89,103 raised for Horton's family.
No, my system's now completely paused, so I have no control. Turns out when you build a super expensive system, GPU can mess it up. Share screen. Here we go. Let's do it slightly differently.
Yeah, Jordan's Tech Junk in the chat just said, "Hey Ian, George, and Ian, sad to hear the news. I got the ping a little while ago and have been reflecting a lot since. Nice to see the streaming. In case I haven't said it enough lately, love you too." And I think more than anything, I didn't know Gordon as well as some other members of the industry did, like you or like Steve, but it really just hits home how in a day everything could just flip. Things can change at a moment's notice, and you never know when that moment's going to come.
It's Gordon. If you watch Adam's video on PC World, or is it on the Full Nerd channel, it said he was able to pass on his own terms in his sleep, which is more any of us, as much as any of us can wish can happen. It's just really shitty. It's only 58 years old. I mean, I plan to be 116. And it's it's he almost always found a way to weave in a Star Trek reference. True that, or have the alien versus aliens debate. Every episode of Full Nerd starts with 20 minutes of speak about food, and he'd always have some some angst or some recommendation or going to Taiwan and finding out about the extra fiber Coke. Right, go to Taipei and they have Coke with extra fiber, or the laxative Coke. And the funny thing is, they'd be there on the stream, they'd have a 3-hour Full Nerd stream, and they'd be downing it the whole stream. Like, guys, you're not gonna. You realize? I mean, I guess because it's unusual to us, right? Say, hey, this is an interesting thing, but no, it has the fiber. It's gonna make you go. Yeah. So, yeah, Michael points out, Gordon's, first major role as a crime reporter in Oakland. This is Oakland, and as a Californian, somebody who lives in California, George, you'll know about Oakland. It's not exactly the safest place in America.
No,
but this is what a journalism background does in this industry, that being a tech enthusiast pivoting to content doesn't teach you for. And unless you have your head screwed on right, the fact that you can't just take somebody's word. You have to know about primary sources, secondary sources, tertiary sources. Are you hearing it firsthand, secondhand, third hand? Do you know people who can verify on or off the record what you said? It's I've got a video planned soon with a bunch of detail I can speak at a high level about, because my sources won't let me share the low level stuff. But my source is the company in question. They want me to do a video, and they're happy for me to have, it's not a sponsored video or anything, but they've said, here, deep down, here is our information. Right. And that, for me, that's the source and validation, but I can talk at a high level, and I can mention the company when that video comes to light as well.
It's funny because there's going to be an article soon where we're running into that same issue where we had to contact the company in question, but they couldn't assist for one reason or another. So we're basically having to figure it out ourselves based on prior knowledge and what we can glean from research papers and PDFs and presentations.
Well, this is the thing: written sources versus hearsay. Again, I said I would pour a drink out to Gordon, but it's 6:30 in the morning where I am. So instead, I'm having,
actually, you know what?
Lilt.
Oh, I don't have a can opener up here.
It's all right. You can go get one.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's there's a tendency. Gordon. I'm not going to speak for Gordon, but he will argue, and has argued in the past, that clickbait has always been around. People are always looking for a fast buck on coverage. Right now, that's at the behest of Twitter. Everybody's taking everything off Twitter almost verbatim. You'll know this. We'll finally get a source we trust say the thing, and then we'll talk about the thing, and people will turn around and say, "Oh, we knew that 3 months ago." It's like, no, you knew a rumor 3 months ago, and actually half of it's still wrong.
Yeah.
And the way Gordon kept out of that to a certain extent is, one, not playing too much into rumor, something I've taken to heart. Right, I'm in a position where I can dispel some rumor through my contacts as well. But it's the wait until there's something verifiable before saying anything. And as Steve said in his video, if you've got something good, then it's the thing itself that does the talking, right? It's let your work speak for you. You don't have to dress it. You don't have to find the mixture of extra virgin olive oil and premium Italian balsamic to put onto your story. You don't need to dress it up. It will speak for itself in its raw, unadulterated form. It's your job as a reporter, as an analyst, as a storyteller, to present it in a way that's most accessible to the audience you're trying to target, whether that's people who can't follow instructions on a pay machine at the grocery store, or whether it's the engineer with 30 years Verilog experience, right? It's what one thing this industry needs is a bunch of people who can infer, you know, if I was X, how would I interpret this? Again, if I was a granny, how would I interpret this? If I was a high school student, how would I interpret this? Gordon went through the motions of doing that through his years in the industry. It's something that I try and apply every time to my content and my writing. You know, and if I wish more people would as well. I will say that if this was a sport, especially an American sport, the role of tech journalism, or whatever you want to call it, PC journalism, because if you say tech journalism to some people, they think smartphone or something else, or gadget. If this was sports, we'd have a Hall of Fame, right? The people over the years who have done the most to help the industry. You know, and Gordon would definitely be in that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel. I think there'd be no.
He would arguably be fighting for number one.
It's he would argue that it's a pointless endeavor, I guess. So, yeah, it's but yeah, no. But PC World and the Full Nerd for the last few years have done a hardware Hall of Fame, and they put it to the vote, right? And they do it between like the 6 or 7 of them they get on the final year show, or just after Christmas, and they say what's due to be in the Hall of Fame this year. You know, and things like the 8800 GTX go in there, and the Celeron 300A, and yeah, if there was a Hall of Fame for tech writers, you'd have Gordon in there, you'd put Anand in there. It's that sort of stuff, you know, and people argue over time, well, you know, should Steve be in there? Should Linus be in there?
Should you be in there?
God no. I'm not, okay, that's a thing, right? I recently did a panel for a company, you know, a panel of experts. I was the moderator at a company event attached to an IEEE event, and the whole thing was recorded. You'll see it on Tech Potato channel. I need to do some edits to it before it goes live on our channel, but it is already out there in the wild. And I was told after the panel that I got away with saying some stuff because I'm a cheeky Brit, right? And I thought about this, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that's a stereotype. But I think Gordon did that as well, and he played a blinder because he was always able to be cheeky. Part of it was doing the whole devil's advocate thing by saying, what if this, what if that? But he would always turn around and say, well, what if my mum did this? And again, bringing it always back to the consumer, he was always able to put it in an entertaining way that allowed him to have some of that British cheekiness in him. You know, we declare Gordon now an honorary Brit for his cheekiness. So it's yeah, it's gonna be, I want to say it's gonna be weird without him. You know, and it's Brian says, remember to leave yourself space to grieve too. You know, this fucking sucks. It's been what, a year and a half, or yeah, summer of 23 when he began treatment, and it was from that point, you know, we knew. He knew from that point that long term it was terminal, right? And I had many discussions with Adam about this, and the question is, what's going to happen when, not if, because that's the way these things work, especially cancer. So when I don't want to say I've grieved already, but with, you know, the best laid plans of Mice and Men and all that, it's Adam, you know, Adam loved the guy. He's had to start thinking about a plan in place for when and if, and no, not if, when. And the hope was always that Gordon would come back stronger than ever, and okay, that when, maybe 20 years down the line. Unfortunately, it's happened now. So, you know, Adam's had some plans in place that he's going to have to implement about the future of PC World video content, about the full nerd. You know, they've brought in Willis, they've brought in another video guy to help with that content. They've got Will doing some video content. They've got Kreider doing a good number of the shorts as well on the main channel. News shorts. I wonder if they'll get Keith in to do a bit more. So, yeah. He was always that voice in the room, but he hasn't been in that room for a year or so, unfortunately, just because just checking over my words here, just due to the illness. So yeah, it's surprise that it's happened now. That's where the surprise is. Yeah. We love you, Gordon.
To Gordon and to everything that he stood for.
May you be reincarnated soon.
Cheers to that.
Only he wasn't on a video a month ago. Yeah. The Ryzen 7 98. Let's share this tab. Yeah. He was on this video about the 9800X 3D. And then again, the Ultra 9 285K. So he was doing the review recording. He wasn't doing the testing. He used to do all the testing, but in order to be, in order to be a benchmarking reviewer, you know, when stuff arrives, you've got to put everything down, almost and put family to the side. Mm-hmm. While you spend the next 72, 96, 120 hours, just all that time benchmarking, little sleep. And this is where, you know, this is the part where Gordon and I differed in utility, because I was always, okay, I've got 120 hours to benchmark something. I'm going to automate the heck out of it. That way I can test multiple angles as much as possible, but also I can go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And what used to be a bunch of, you know, benchmark runs now becomes a 7 or 10 or a 12-hour automated thing, and it would just go through the automation, and I'd just get the results at the end. And if I needed to rerun a specific thing, I could. If you don't have that and you go to sleep, that's just dead time.
Yeah.
He was always an advocate for manual testing, because he said that provided user experience a lot more. You know, as in, over time, you'll feel if, you know, Geekbench gets slower. Over time, you'll feel if 3D Mark ends up with, you know, a spike every 10 seconds, you'll see it. Whereas if you automate it, you won't, sort of thing. I guess over time, I've kind of smoothed over those worries. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, there may be an issue, but it'll be sorted out eventually. My 7 o'clock alarm is about to go off in 15 minutes. Fun. But Gordon was really happy to stay at the forefront of what the consumers wanted. Whereas by contrast, I just want to find out deeper. I want to find out more into the microarchitecture. I want to find out more into the materials. I want to find out more into the scale of packaging and what's happening in research in 3, 5, 7 years. Gordon was always interested in the highlights of that, but until it hit prime time, he wasn't interested. So, but again, that's what this industry needs. It needs a variety of interests and a variety of expertise. I've only just realized that on their thumbnails, they put the little power symbol for their PC World logo.
Yep.
Huh.
You only just now noticed it.
Yeah, I've only just noticed that. They do the whole red banner and white text, which I've been doing in my videos for some time. But I never realized they also added a logo. I guess it's because you look at this and you don't see the logo of the channel. So, yeah. It's events, Cam 2, and LP Cam. See that? Here's a couple of videos I did. 3, yeah. So there's going to be 3 more videos with me with Will. Actually, I may have been wearing this T-shirt again.
So of course you took it on the same day, right?
It's that's actually quite funny. It's because I know the PC World audience. If I start talking about Commodore 64s, or at least just have it, it's a point of it's a point of interaction for the audience. That's why Gordon always had interesting backgrounds in the full nerd, right? They always be Star Wars related. It's I want to go back to when he was on the video regularly. 2023 PC World outtakes. Oh, there's Intel's new co-CEO.
It's MJ.
MJ, yeah. We're going to go see her at CES. I've got some time with her.
Oh, cool. I should probably attempt to reach out.
It's a small little analyst thing. So there you go. Here we go. This is me and Gordon in the that looks like there's a massive height difference. There's not. But yeah.
Well, you're short, Ian, so
no, I know. So this is about the time when he stopped being in front of the camera. Yeah. And then that's
Mark.
No, I know, but that's is that Intel Innovation? That's September 23. Yeah. He would have got
yes.
He would have got the diagnosis at that point. Yeah. Yeah, and this is post Computex. This is Computex because this is the TICC. And here he is with Pedro at ASUS. This is with Shannon. Who does Shannon work for these days? Yeah, and Leo and Aris, and another one with Steve. Yeah, that's to Poets, Risk 5. And another one with Wendell. Wendell's lost a crazy ton of weight.
Good for him.
Yeah. And then this is the Frost stuff. The thing is, yeah, you go back and every thumbnail is Gordon. 70, 79, 50x3D a scam. Yeah. I envy the fact that they can put out this much content, but they have a team. Unfortunately, one less in that team now, which sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's I don't know what's going to happen to PC World. It's Adam and Gordon during the video content came as a pair. Adam was really really liked Gordon as a friend and was really respectful for he was this fountain of knowledge, and Adam recognizes that if he's in front of the camera, he's got to ask questions because he doesn't know how to use some of this stuff. But that's what Gordon was there for. Gordon was always the counterfoil to that. And Will's kind of stepped up into this role in part. But then obviously when you go to events and stuff, you've got to find a way to do it. I think they said 4 or 5 of them are going to CES.
Okay.
It's yeah. Like I said earlier, we're gonna maybe there'll be some group drinks. Not really a wake, but just a collective remembrance. Yeah, for Gordon. While we're at CES, and no doubt Adam and team are fielding comments from a bunch of people today. So yeah, he pinged me at 6.5 hours ago about the video. So I have this habit of waking up and checking YouTube, so I saw it. Yeah, it's there's no real good way to end this because we don't, we're all going to miss Gordon.
Yeah.
We'll see. It's one I'm going to miss is the fact that Gordon had so many stories from his time in the industry. Kind of makes you wish that he'd written them down.
Yeah. I think the chat's right. I think we should end with a toast.
Yep.
A toast to Gordon and a toast to what he stood for. Cheers up, y'all.
Cheers, Gordon. Thank you for being with us.